Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Marin Energy Authority Board meeting for Thursday, March 7th. Welcome. We're not going to be as long as we were last time, is the good news, but as always, we do have a fairly full agenda. So why don't we get started right in with item 1, board announcements. Okay, I have one. So last night, I was actually down in San Diego at an environmental conference and accepted an award on behalf of the Marin Energy Authority for our Marin Clean Energy Program, awarded by the Climate Change Business Journal, which is a national publication. This ended up being a conference with people from around the nation, different disciplines, including energy. And we actually were awarded an honor for project merit for solar power based on our feed-in tariff program. So, so here it is, and we'll add that to our somewhat growing collection and continue to do the good work. So, item 2, public open time.
I'm Alexander Vinnick, representative for the Detox Institute in Fairfax. We've been strong supporters of Marin Clean Energy since it was first conceived, and we want it to continue to grow and thrive. But we suspect that the recent tentative approval of the 7% rate increase marks a serious strategic mistake that can severely harm MCE, and that PG&E will be very happy to take advantage of it. PG&E has shown over 3 years that it will do anything within the law, sometimes outside it, to maintain its energy monopoly, and in the present case, that means increasing its market share. The problem is really about the timing of an MCE increase. Next month, MCE will start its major marketing to 30,000 Richmond utility customers. July is Richmond's initial rollout period. Right now, you have 2 main arguments as to why Richmond customers should go with MCE. An average monthly bill a little lower than PG&E's and a greener energy mix. But PG&E is moving forward with its so-called green option. It may well be available by this July, and PG&E is likely to initially price it as aggressively as permitted by the CPUC. This makes price competitiveness by MCE an even more important factor in convincing Richmond customers to not opt out. Based on existing rates, an average MCE customer now pays a total amount $1.60 a month less than PG&E customers. Not a huge difference, but it does give you an effective psychological advantage, particularly since cost may well be a bigger consideration for Richmond customers than for many of those with Marin's higher median income. If despite a considerable marketing expenditure for the Richmond rollout, a significant number do opt out, that would be a black eye for your program and for CCAs generally going forward, and a major victory for your investor-owned competitor. We're proposing that you revisit the rate increase and instead opt for a smaller increase in April or May. For example, a 3% rise would mean an average electric bill still smaller than for PG&E customers. And rather than committing to this rate for a full year, allow yourselves to take another look in September with the possibility of a second small increase beginning, say, in November. We understand the general policy argument about, quote, rate stability, but particularly in this situation, with so many potential customers poised to join MCE under the right conditions, it's more important to have the flexibility to counter PG&E's all-out competitive push. They are able to adjust rates a few times a year. You should be able to do so twice a year when the strategic situation demands it. I'm almost done now. Please don't shoot yourselves in the foot with an improved 7% increase now. You will be helping no one but PG&E's top management. We're also aware that our community's member of your board, who missed the last meeting due to illness, has concerns somewhat similar to our own. We realize that for you to consider an alternative at this juncture might psychologically be like stopping a full-speed freight train, but we hope you're willing to do so to be nimble, to step outside of the box and take a fresh look at the rate increase vis-a-vis the imminent Richmond rollout before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennick. And Just so everyone is aware, we are currently in a 60-day public review process of our proposed rate increase, so your comments and those of others are welcome. We will be taking up rates at our April 4th meeting.
Would it be useful to send a copy of my comments to all?
I was going to suggest that, or perhaps to our executive officer who will distribute it.
That would be great, and then you could distribute it possibly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public on items not on the agenda? Okay, why don't we move on to item 3, report from executive officer. Dawn.
Okay, I just have 4 brief items tonight. First, I wanted to report that our open season process came to a close on March 1st, and it was a very big success. We received 52 projects, which were bid into MCE with a range of technology types and very competitive pricing. So we're really excited about the proposals that came in. The evaluative process is commencing now, and we expect to be in discussion with the board and have some announcements for the public probably within the next 4 to 6 months on developments as a result of these project bids. So very exciting. The next item I wanted to give an overview of, and Emily, if you could hold up the sign.
Sure.
We wanted to let folks know that the Green Power Partnership has all the applications have gone in for each of our cities and towns that are getting their power supplied by Marin Clean Energy, and the applications have been accepted by the EPA. And so each of our cities and towns will be receiving one of these signs. It's a road sign, so it can be put up at in a place of the city or town's choosing. The county will also receive one. You can put it down. I forgot.
I was making faces at my coworkers.
And so we will be getting in contact with each of your jurisdictions via your city manager, probably copying you as well, to figure out how you'd like to receive the road sign. We'd be happy to present it at a council meeting, a board meeting if you would like, or it can be handled in a simpler way. It's really up to your discretion, but we're really excited about that. And within the next few weeks, the EPA Green Power Partnership website will be showing all of our new member agencies and really taking over the top of their list, because the green purchases that are happening through our member agencies are really up there with the top of the top across the nation. The next item I wanted to report on is that we were able to present to the North Bay Leadership Council this morning, which was really timely as the County of Sonoma is exploring the CCA program. We were able to explain how our program is operating. There was also a presentation after ours by PG&E, and I thought it was a really helpful and informative meeting overall. We also have a meeting scheduled at the Marin Bar Association at their April luncheon, which I believe Director Connolly and Director Pine will be assisting with, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then the last announcement I have is that our technical committee meeting will be held at its usual time, which falls on this Monday at 9 a.m. And we're going to be talking about some local renewable projects through 2 efforts: a seed program that we'll be talking about Monday, and then also through a local MEA-owned solar project that we're beginning to explore now. So we'll be talking about both of those things on Monday. We encourage anyone that's interested to participate, and the materials for that meeting are already online on our website. That's it from my report.
Thanks, Dawn. Any questions for Dawn on our report? Members of the public? Okay, great. Item 4 is the consent calendar, and you probably noticed, hopefully, that with regard to the various contract addenda and agreements that we did a chart listing those and what they were about, how they interrelate, and hopefully that was understandable to folks. I don't know if there's any additional discussion at this time, or if someone's prepared to make a motion.
I'll move.
Got a second? Okay, moved and seconded.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That matter carries. Okay, item 5, which is a resolution honoring board member Dick Collins, is actually going to be deferred until Dick can join us. So we'll continue that item. Item 6, resolution of the Board of Directors honoring MEA board member Tom Cromwell. Don, why don't you introduce yourself?
Great, very, very happy to do so. So Director Tom Cromwell has been with MEA since our formation back in late 2008. We believe we began meeting as a board in early 2009. And Tom has contributed immensely to the formation of MEA and helping us to grow from really our infancy to what we are today, serving a lot of customers and doing a lot of tangible things to reach the goals, the really high goals that we had back in 2008 and 2009. And so we're really grateful for all that you've contributed, Director Cromwell, and I wonder if you'd like to read the resolution, and then we have an award that we'd like to present similar to the award that we provided for other founding board members for your years of service.
Well, why don't I take a minute to find that, but in the meantime, Tom.
I would suggest
here
that
we
you
go.
just dispense with the reading the whole thing.
I'll meet you halfway.
All right.
Read the good part. And to completely echo Don's comments about what he meant to the agency, it really can't be overstated. But just to read a little bit of the resolution, whereas Director Cromwell has been a dedicated and determined public servant, demonstrating considerable perseverance to ensure that Belvedere residents and businesses have the opportunity to choose Marin Clean Energy. And whereas Director Cromwell was a persistent and successful advocate with the City of Belvedere leadership, which voted to join MEA on December 8, 2008. Seems like quite a while ago now. Whereas, Director Cromwell contributed greatly to the formative years of MEA by joining MEA as a founding board member, participating in ad hoc committees of the board, and providing insightful leadership into the organization. And whereas Director Cromwell has been a reliable board member, offering input and guidance on a range of issues, Director Cromwell's board colleagues will sincerely miss him, needless to say, his contributions and his supportive and encouraging attitude. Whereas the Marin Energy Authority Board of Directors and staff sincerely thank Director Cromwell for his passion and commitment to the agency and its goals and purposes. Now therefore be it resolved by the board and staff to hereby extend to Richard Cromwell our sincere and grateful appreciation for his unwavering and dedicated service to the Marin Energy Authority Board of Directors, our best wishes to him for continued success, happiness, and good health in the years to come. If you can maybe, we can meet halfway over here, wanted to.
Also, we have cake to celebrate. So
Oh, we do?
adjourn for 2
Okay.
minutes, so we can go.
Excellent. And again, this is really in recognition of your vision, your dedication, your commitment, and leadership as a founding member.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Well, this is sort of a bittersweet moment for me. Number one, I'm sorry that Dick Collins is not here tonight. He is a very good friend of mine, as he is for most of you. He has had some health problems and can't be here tonight, but I'm sure he wishes you all very well. I want you to know that my reason for leaving this board really has nothing to do with lack of enthusiasm or interest, far from it. My reasons for leaving are twofold. Number one is my schedule has been overloaded by chairing a committee in Belvedere that has really proven to be more difficult to deal with than PG&E, if that's at all possible. It's an agency called FEMA, and some of you have had some experience, and certainly San Anselmo has. We have been dealing with FEMA in a bit different way than San Anselmo has, and it has to do with our floodplain management, and they have included many properties in Belvedere in the floodplain as a result of their remapping, and we're trying to sort out those issues, which has become extremely time-consuming for us. The second reason that I am leaving the board is because we have a very able replacement who is sitting right in front of me, Bob McCaskill. Bob is a retired accountant from Arthur Anderson. He loves numbers, which is not my strong suit. And now that we are in the stage of dealing with procurement of energy and dealing with contracts and all of those sorts of things, his talents will serve this board much better than mine. So I don't feel that I'm causing any problems to the board by leaving. Bob will be a very able replacement. I should tell you that my first exposure to MEA was before MEA was even called that, and it does date back to, I think, 2008 at a dinner at what was then the Seafood Peddler restaurant in Santa Fe, which no longer exists. It was a meeting of perhaps a half a dozen people. Sean Marshall was there. Damon, you may have been there, I'm not sure. Leslie, you probably were there. And they talked for about 2 hours about distributed energy and CCAs and net metering and all that sort of stuff. And I went back to my counsel and said, you know, I'm a doctor. I don't even know what they're talking about. And perhaps someone else on the council would like to take this position. And they looked at me and said, well, we don't know what they're talking about either, so why don't you come back and tell us what's going on? So I did stick it out, and I learned a great deal about clean energy and everything we've done over the past 5 or 6 years. The most important thing that I learned, however, doesn't have anything to do with clean energy. It has to do with the vision and the intelligence and the absolute perseverance of Charles McLash. And it was his vision that started this whole game, and that Seafood Peddler restaurant dinner that we had, at that point it was simply a vision in Charles McLash's mind, and I think probably only in Charles McLash's mind. Everybody else sort of wondered, what are we doing here? But it was his effort and his perseverance that we started this entity. Then he had the incredible intelligence and experience to find exceptional talent. Dawn came on board with us as the executive director. Kirby and John joined us, Beth, Jamie, and all of the people that are now on the staff. They have done a remarkable job in getting this entity to what it is today. I can tell you that the first couple of years were not easy, and Leslie, you remember those very well, and Dawn, you remember those very well. It was very difficult for us because PG&E fought us every step of the way with tactics that were definitely unethical, if not bordering on illegal. They got away with it, they fought us. There was also a plethora of individuals, for some reason or other, who felt that our effort was foolhardy and we should not take on PG&E. And it got to the point that I did not want to open the IJ and look at the editorial page, because every single day there were 1 or 2 and sometimes half a dozen letters to the editor in the IJ being critical of MEA and its efforts, and very personal letters against Charles McLash, all of which were unfounded. So I persevered with this thing, with this effort. I am leading the board. I am not an expert in clean, renewable energy, but I have learned a great deal. I am an unabashed enthusiast, and I will be following this board and its efforts, even though I'm not here. Applauding your successes, which I'm sure will be many in the future, because we have really started a whole program, not only for Marin County, but for well beyond our borders. And I thank you for the opportunity to be part of this effort. Thank you.
will correct the typo.
Should we do a quick adjournment for cake?
I think we should put a resolution.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That matter carries. Let's take a quick break, grab a piece of cake. Okay, picking up with item 7, resolution of the Board of MEA honoring MEA board member Jonathan Leone for his service. Unfortunately, Jonathan was not able to be with us this evening, but Director Sears is going to read a portion of his resolution.
Absolutely, not the whole thing, but just the highlights. Director Leone has been a dedicated public servant demonstrating perseverance to ensure that Sausalito residents and businesses have the opportunity to choose Marin clean energy. Whereas Director Leone was a persistent and ultimately successful advocate with the City of Sausalito leadership, which voted to join Marin Energy Authority on November 25th, 2008. Whereas Director Leone contributed to the formative years of MEA by joining MEA as a founding board member, serving and participating in committees of the board, and providing insightful leadership and guidance. And whereas Director Leone's board colleagues will sincerely miss him and his many contributions, his insight, perspective, and encouraging attitude. And whereas Marin Energy Authority Board of Directors and staff sincerely thank Director Leone for his contributions to the agency, its goals, and purpose.
Thank you, and we'll transmit that to you now. Okay, so we need a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
That matter carries. Item 8, addition of board members to the technical committee.
So I'll introduce this item. Due to the rotation of members on our board, we actually have a couple of open seats on our technical committee. And so we have 2 seats to fill this evening for our standing technical committee. Director Small from the town of Ross has expressed an interest in joining the technical committee, which we're very grateful for. And also our new director, Annette O'Donnell, has expressed an interest in joining the technical committee. And our next meeting is coming up this Monday. So we could take action to add those new directors to the technical committee this evening.
I'll move to do that.
Second.
You sure you guys want to do it?
Already done it a couple of times. Already done it a couple of times.
It's really a great committee. It's really where a lot of the rubber meets the road for the agency. So appreciate you stepping up. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
That matter carries. Now, we have an open seat on that, Dawn.
We have another board member who has expressed an interest in being on the technical committee, and one of the current members, our chair, in fact, has expressed a willingness to rotate off of that committee to open up opportunities for others. So Director Whitby has expressed an interest. He wasn't able to be here tonight, so he asked that we wait to make that change until our April meeting.
Okay, great. All right, item 9, energy efficiency program update.
Hello. And we go over to the podium, this is my custom. So, hello, just here to provide a basic update on program activities to date and really set the stage for some good contracts that we have on the next 2 agenda items for your consideration tonight. So just a quick overview. I'm going to give the typical background about Marin Energy Authority and energy efficiency, so everybody's starting from the same place. And then I'll give an update on each of the main program components that were approved for funding by the Public Utilities Commission. So to give a quick overview again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, energy efficiency has always been a cornerstone of the MEA vision and is a really important part of what this board is trying to do. And it's been so exciting to be able to get support from the California Public Utilities Commission to realize that. Specifically, I want to call out that in August of 2012, we received about $330,000 worth of funding from the Public Utilities Commission. What's important to note is that that funding was actually calculated based on the usage of customers. And so it was a range, anywhere from about 200,000 up to 400,000 is the potential pool of funding. And we have received our final allocation, and it's looking right around 328,000. So we do have our final amount for that, which is great. The second thing to note is that in November of last year, the Public Utilities Commission awarded a portfolio of $4.1 million worth of funding for 2013-2014 programs. And that includes programs for multifamily, small commercial, single family, and financing programs as well. So to give you an update on where we are with the multifamily program, one of the big things that's been happening in the past month is a lot of coordination. The Public Utilities Commission chose multifamily as sort of a test case because the investor-owned utilities have traditionally had a very hard time serving the sector. So they actually approved several programs that overlap in function, which is very different than what they normally try to do. And as a result, there's been a lot of need to sort of coordinate amongst those program offerings in the Bay Area. The main programs that we're working with are the investor-owned utility, Energy Upgrade California for Multifamily. This is a new pilot program that launched in February and is really aimed at achieving deep, comprehensive upgrades in multifamily buildings. Another program that's on our radar is the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, known as the BayREN. They also have approval for a multifamily program, but with them, we've sort of negotiated that we get precedence in Marin, which is really nice of them to give us that sort of go-ahead. One of the main forums that we've been doing this coordination is something, it's quite an acronym, the California Home Energy Retrofit Coordinating Committee Multifamily Subgroup. This is a group that was actually first formed in response to the stimulus funding that hit California like a tidal wave. Just millions and millions of dollars that was dumped into California in 2010 to emphasize a lot of new programs. California saw the immediate need to coordinate the delivery of those programs across the state to ensure that contractors had one consistent set of regulations, one consistent set of certifications that they needed. And as a result, this organization really blossomed to help get some coordination across programs. The multifamily subcommittee of that persists and has proven to be a really good venue. So we've been very, very honored to continue our participation in that group. Another fun thing that's been taking up a lot of my time in the past month or so has been working with the Energy Division of the California Public Utilities Commission to understand what the regulatory deadlines are for our program. They've had sort of one set of published regulatory deadlines, which have been applicable to the investor-owned utilities, and another set of seemingly persistently sliding deadlines, which have had impact for MEA. So the result of those long conversations is that instead of having a hard and fast deadline with them, we're really working on more of a collegiate basis with Energy Division, which is an advantage to us as a new organization. One of the really exciting things we've been able to get really hitting the ground on since February is working on developing web portal functionality for our multifamily program as well. We originally approved the web portal to support the single-family program, but there's a very small incremental cost of doing that for multifamily as well, which was part of the original contract. So we've been able to dovetail the web portal along with the program that we have to help screen customers, make them aware of our multifamily rebate program, and eventually also provide that administrative dashboard that I've been talking about over and over again, which should really help us manage our process. Finalizing contracts for Richmond implementers, which is on our agenda this evening. We're working with Rising Sun Energy Center to do some direct install work in the city of Richmond. We're very excited about that contract, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. And then we had just an excellent first meeting with the Marin Municipal Water District, which I'm very excited about. We met with Dan Carney there, who's their conservation director. They have just such stellar programs that they're doing. Having a history working in local government, I was very impressed with what their organization has been able to do. And it seems like there's some real opportunity for collaboration across those two programs. And along the immediate horizon, they're going to be providing a lot of the materials for the direct installation of our energy efficiency, which will save us a lot of money in terms of procuring things like shower heads and faucet aerators, and it will save them money in terms of not having to find someone to implement that. So it's a real positive collaboration. We're excited about that. Another thing that I really want to highlight is that we have a schools program, which is part of the single family program, to develop a curriculum, help get kids excited about energy efficiency, help them implement it in their homes. And it turns out Marin Water District also does that. So we're trying to see if there's any opportunity for us to dovetail our two curriculum and have them work together. Curriculums. So just a quick snapshot of the different contracts that we have in place. The existing contracts that we have that were approved by your board in February include technical assistance with the Association for Energy Affordability and direct install and outreach and education in the Marin area with Marin City Community Development Corporation. We have some proposed contracts. The Community Energy Services Corporation, we're really looking to partner with them primarily for the small commercial program, but they also have a very good proven model at assessing lighting savings, so we're hoping to leverage some of their work with the multifamily program as well. And then Rising Sun Energy Center has a wonderful youth energy program that we're hoping to expand and have be a component of our direct install in the city of Richmond. And then the last one, which I'm also just so excited to be bringing in April, is a contract that we're negotiating with Richmond Build to hopefully support some of their training. They have an excellent training model there, and we'll be looking forward to telling you all about that in April. The small commercial program. This one has been a focus of a lot of my attention over the past month. I think I had mentioned at the last month that this is an area where we do have some overlap with one of the programs that's being delivered in Marin currently through the Marin County Energy Watch Partnership. And that can create a bad situation in the marketplace when you have two vendors knocking on doors, offering slightly different products. It's shown that customers, when they're confronted with too much choice, often just don't choose anything at all. So rather than face that situation, we've been working very closely with PG&E and Marin County Energy Watch to see if there's a way that we can jointly implement the program. And so what we're bringing before you tonight as a contract is a result of that negotiation process. It's a jointly implemented program model, so both of us are contributing funding to one vendor, and we're sharing attribution, meaning we're sharing energy savings credit for the projects that are achieved. We've been able to negotiate through that Marin Energy Authority gets to retain all of the whole building measures. The existing program really focused on lighting and refrigeration, and we're trying to be able to do a little bit more, get some building envelope, get some HVAC measures along with that. And so as a result of bringing that added value, all of those projects actually get to come to our portfolio as well. So we think that was really, it was really truly in the spirit of collaboration that PG&E has come forward with this and agreed to do the program in this way. So we're very positive about it and looking forward to implementation and hoping that we can just take an already successful program and help it do more. Along with those lines, we are also taking the lessons learned from that conversation over to the East Bay, where there's a slightly similar circumstance. The East Bay Energy Watch also has a program that's very similar to what the Marin County Energy Watch does. We've had 2 meetings so far, and they've been very positive. Our most recent meeting, the folks from PG&E who manage the program in the East Bay essentially said, we see no reason why we should start from scratch. And they're looking to leverage the lessons learned here and do the same thing over in the city of Richmond area. So that's good news as well. Other than that, we're just negotiating final incentive levels. We're finalizing the request for qualifications, which we would be hopefully sending out to find some qualified contractors for the program. And then we're looking around May timeframe to have a really full program launch, including both lighting and refrigeration and those deeper building envelope measures, which aren't currently a component of the program that is delivered in the area. To give you a snapshot of where we stand with the contracts, we had an existing contract that was approved under John's signing authority at the end of last year with CESC. It was focused on helping us with the multifamily program, identifying lighting savings under that program, and doing some design and assistance for small commercial. And the proposed contract tonight, again, as I said, really is a result of those conversations with PG&E and the Marin County Energy Watch Partnership. It would include technical assistance for that program management and oversight, limited technical assistance for the multifamily program, and I'll talk more about those under another agenda item. So one thing that I'm also excited to report out on that we've been able to do over the past month is launching the web portal. We approved a contract in February to do a single family facing web portal. We're expecting that to launch, if not tomorrow, certainly by Monday. I have a screenshot that I can show you. We've been working hard on customizing their web portal, making sure it matches the look and feel of the Marin Clean Energy website, which you'll be hearing more about later this evening. And this is just a shot of the entry page of that. When we do launch that web portal, I'm going to go back here real quick. When we do launch that web portal, it's going to be a bit of a soft launch. We're working out some details of the deep green components, how to work that in. It's very different than anything else in the state, really, so we want to make sure we get that right. And of course, the financing is something that we will be rolling out when we have a lender under contract for that program. The schools program is progressing. We have been working with Strategic Energy Innovations to implement a curriculum in schools in the Marin County area. We're excited about that. And again, working with Marin Water District to see Marin Municipal Water District. And then we're also exploring the possibility to do a pilot with California Youth Energy Services, which is the Rising Sun Energy Program, to see if when they're entering homes and doing their greenhouse call program, which is very successful, if the web portal can actually enhance that experience for the homeowner. So that's a potentially exciting collaboration that we're kind of feeling out. Again, just to give you a quick snapshot of the contracts, that one is actually set in stone. We have the existing contract with Planet Ecosystems, and the Strategic Energy Innovations contract focusing on the schools program is a subcontract that was already included in the Planet Ecosystems contract package. So it's covered through their existing budget. Financing, I'm so excited to talk about. We do finally, this is like my pet project, so it's really exciting to be able to see a signed term sheet with River City Bank. River City Bank has been a strong partner in Marin Energy Authority, and Don gets all the credit for having done an excellent job as a responsible fiscal manager. And because of that relationship, I think we were able to negotiate stellar terms. We're looking at 5.5% interest fixed. It'll be 5 to 10 year loans, $10,000 minimum, $250,000 maximum. They're willing to entertain larger loans on a case-by-case basis, but they want to have a closer look at the package. What this costs us as an organization is about $265,000, which will be offered up in something called a loan loss reserve fund. Essentially, that's ratepayer funds that was given to us by this purpose for the Public Utilities Commission. Those funds exist in account and are only drawn upon in the event of a default from a lender. So the bank will put up $2.65 million that's available for lending, and if any of those loans go south and have to be charged off, then at that point the loan loss reserve will be drawn upon. $265,000 that's sitting there to be available for that program, but the conversations that we've had with a lot of existing utility lending programs indicate a default rate of around 1 to 2%, so it's very likely that that funding won't even get touched. We're also having continued discussions to identify a lender for the single-family program. We've had some promising conversations, but no commitments that have come forward yet. Just to give you an idea of where the funding falls on that one, we have a little over $1 million under this line item, the vast majority of which is available directly as incentives. And by incentives in this case, what I mean is that funding that's available for a loan loss reserve, a credit enhancement is another way to put it. We earmarked $265,000 of that for the multifamily and small commercial program. We're really hoping to achieve a robust single-family program. We're earmarking $500,000 that we can offer up as a credit enhancement, and we're hoping to get a $5 million loan pool that we can make available to single-family residents in both Marin and the city of Richmond with that funding. So we're working hard to get that program launched. The other program, of course, our standard offer program, which falls under the financing program. We've been having some discussions about that in technical committee, and we're looking to earmark around $295,000, which we can make available for that performance contract-based program model. And with that, I would love to open for any questions or comments on this agenda item.
Director Seuss.
I really just want to comment, and these energy efficiency programs are such an important aspect of what we're doing. And, I think, Becky, every time I see you, I have to tell you how fabulous you are. But I'm really particularly pleased how quickly these programs have come together. I mean, this is something that certainly I've been thinking about for whatever, I think it's only been a year and a half that I've been on the board, and it seemed initially that we were just aiming to get here, but we really had challenges to make it happen. And I think the speed with which all these programs and the funding have come together in the last really 3-4 months is truly extraordinary. And so kudos to you and really everyone on the team who's worked on this. And getting the CPUC support obviously was a tremendously important first step, but the speed with which things are coming together is really awesome. So I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
The consultants would wish it would go even faster.
Well,
Really
I'm not
strong
objecting to that,
well,
but
so I can't take all the credit.
Any other questions for Becky? Yes.
Becky, my question is, you have described on here dollar amounts that are being allocated. For example, I'm looking at the multifamily and small commercial, $265,000, and then leveraged with the $2.65 million. Can you just say more about how those two sets of funds are going to work on a specific project?
Absolutely. So the concept there is actually that the lending happens from River City Bank as with any traditional consumer loan. They'll extend the loan, recipient, of course, borrows that funding and then makes payments back to the bank on a regular basis. In a perfect universe, our money never comes into play. The bank receives all of the payments on time, there's never a default, and everything works great. But sometimes things happen, and sometimes, in some cases, people aren't able to pay off their loan, and it has to be charged off, and it's a default. And the bank doesn't have an opportunity to reclaim their funding, because often these are unsecured loans. So to mitigate the bank's risk, and to get the bank a little more comfortable with lending in this area, what we're offering is a credit enhancement in the form of a loan loss reserve. And so that $265,000 represents 10% of their portfolio, and it's available to be drawn upon in the event of default. So if any of those loans that they make under the terms of this program defaults, then they can draw on that funding to make themselves whole. The idea behind it is that this is a fairly new area for a lot of banks to lend in. They don't know how to evaluate the risk because there isn't a big set of data of similarly performing loans. So when they don't know how to evaluate risk, a lot of times the reaction is to have a very high interest rate so that they can be sure to cover their costs and get the return that they're looking for. As an alternative to that, we're saying we'll shoulder some of that risk. So in exchange for us shouldering some of the risk, can you please have a lower interest rate? And that's what we've been able to negotiate in this case.
And so, part of what you said was that a lot of these loans are unsecured?
Yeah, that's, that's not entirely accurate because we are looking to do a fixture filing as a part of the multifamily and small commercial program. But it's not like a PACE where it subordinates the mortgage and is just about the most secure kind of debt that you can get. So technically they are secured loans. It's not like a credit card transaction.
Further questions for Becky from board members? Yes.
So 2013, 2014 is not going to be too far away. Do you see any of these type of programs being able to be ramped up to a greater degree, or
Yeah,
does
I
the
mean,
available monies substantially increase?
yeah, absolutely. I think the programs that I'm most concerned about not having ramped up already would really be the financing program, specifically the single family financing program. That one is, I think, the biggest risk factor for not spending the money because we don't have a rebate program that we can co-market the financing along with. We're really kind of reliant on other channels and other existing rebate programs. That said, the rest of these programs, we actually, the pool of funding that's available is not very substantial. We can have just a handful of customers who come through the door and take up all the funding that we have for those programs and all the program targets. So I
What
mean,
would
it's
be
always
an-
at the back of my mind.
What would be an average amount?
Well, we have, for example, proposed targets of about 42 buildings for the multifamily sector and about 1,600 units, assuming 40 unit buildings. That varies considerably. We might have one building that has a lot more, one building that has a lot less. And as an example, one of the properties that we're working to finalize forms with is about 500 units. So about a third of our program targets. Another property that is in the hopper close behind that, that's in the city of Richmond that we're looking at, is around 300 units. So that's another 800 right there, about 50% of our program targets. So these seem like big numbers when they're all in one place, but when you start to spread them out across the depth and breadth of programs that we're doing, it really is a size, it's a digestible chunk for the 2-year time frame that we have.
Okay, members of the public. All right, great. So Becky, are you going to just continue on into the,
I'm good.
all right?
Is that slow enough for you? Should I speed it up a bit?
Okay, so agreement with Rising Sun Energy.
So I can't take the credit for discovering the Rising Sun Energy folks. They have been doing great work in Marin with the Marin County Energy Watch Partnership Program. And Dana Armanino at the county had mentioned them as being potentially a really good program to work with. And after having done a little research and looked at the program that they have, I have to agree, it's really a stellar model that they have developed there. So I'm going to introduce them a little bit and talk about some of their program background and talk about what's being proposed in the agreement before you tonight, and then invite a representative from Rising Sun to come up and say a few words, and then turn it back over. So just a little bit about Rising Sun. They're a nonprofit organization. They've been providing energy education and workforce development since about 1994. Their mission statement right here to empower individuals to achieve environmental and economic sustainability for themselves and their communities. I really like the story of the California Youth Energy Services Program. This started out of I believe a Berkeley High School program with a bunch of students who thought, well, what can we do to really make a difference and make an impact in the environment? And as a result, they put together a pilot proposal that was funded by the city of Berkeley in the year of 2000. And I believe that these 300 students achieved something like 400 home audits in their first year of operation, which was just really incredible results for a high school run kind of program. So it's exciting. And out of that blossomed the really robust California Youth Energy Services Program. It operates throughout the Bay Area, including in Marin County and the city of Richmond. And as I mentioned, they've partnered locally with the Marin County Energy Loss Program. The program that specifically we're looking to work with, the California Youth Energy Services Green Housefall Program. What they do here is they find youth between the ages of 15 to 22. They're selected from the communities that they'll be working in. So for the city of Richmond, they'll be looking to find youth in the city of Richmond who need a summer job or an after-school job and recruiting them to work in the program. These youth are trained in energy efficiency, they're trained in customer service, and they're trained in the efficiency installations. The greenhouse calls enter people's homes at, of course, their request or permission. They provide free energy assessments to the homeowners, giving them some education about energy and energy efficiency and why they would be concerned about it. In addition to that, they do light installation of efficiency measures. They can replace incandescent bulbs with CFLs. They can install high-performance shower heads and faucet aerators. They do other things under that program as well, such as retractable clotheslines, smart strips, some really exciting things. And they can educate the building residents on the benefits of energy efficiency, like I said. To give you an idea of what this program can accomplish in just a short amount of time, in 2012 in the city of Richmond, they trained 9 youth, and those 9 youth served 241 households. 1,500 CFLs, 200 shower heads. I don't have to go through all of these, but whopping savings of 60,000 kilowatt hours and 1,600 therms. Also 308 gallons of water. Never be remiss to mention the water savings. So we're looking to partner with the California Youth Energy Services Program to deliver services under our multifamily program. We're hoping that we can leverage their program to do the direct installation component of our multifamily program in the city of Richmond. As a reminder, this board approved a contract in February with Marin City Community Development Corporation, who will be doing that direct installation work in Marin. So this is a really nice sort of Richmond-based partnership that also has that workforce development component that we like. They're also going to be using their great model to provide energy education for tenants. And we're looking at a total budget of about $56,000 to provide those 200 tenant units. As I mentioned earlier, there's also potential collaboration to work with California Youth Energy Services under the single-family program. There's the possibility that we could train the youth on tablets on how to use the Planet Ecosystems tool, so that when they're in a home, they can provide a bit more comprehensive of an assessment, set up an account with that homeowner that can be a persistent place where that homeowner can track their energy action plan, see their progress towards achieving savings, and also create an enduring relationship between our program and that homeowner as well. So that's something that we're excited to look into and see if that's a way that we can enhance what they're already doing and maybe provide some additional technical training for the youth that they're working with. So short and sweet. At this time, I'd love to open up for any questions.
Director Sears.
So Becky, how will this work exactly? If we're targeting particular multifamily buildings that we think would be appropriate for our services, would these young people then go door to door and talk to tenants, or how do they just match up with people who want the information they have to provide?
Yeah, so we're actually thinking that there might, while the main objective is that we'll provide leads to them, say, we're planning on doing a retrofit on this building, can you schedule a team to come to the building and knock door to door with the tenants and let them know, do the greenhouse call service for them. We'll also be trying to give some tenant notification in advance so the tenants are aware that that service is going to be provided and can be around and available to do that. This program doesn't operate in a vacuum. They also have their normal, robust youth energy services program, and while they've agreed very graciously, along with the Energy Watch Partnership, to not actively market to multifamily properties, they may, from time to time at their tabling events, get a multifamily tenant who's really interested in their service. And we're trying to work out a way to see if that can be a lead generation opportunity for us as well. From that opportunity, we know that there's a multifamily building, we know that they're gonna be in the neighborhood, and we can reach out and say, hey, we're gonna be in the area, we have this program, is there any chance that there'd be an interest in this? But we're working out the details of whether or not we can share that kind of information through PG&E, there may be some firewalls.
Becky, after these kids go to the houses, I assume they take some light bulbs and things like that with them. Do they then have a program when they go back weeks, months later to try to assess what difference they made?
So I can speak a little bit to that, but if you want to answer any questions as well. I know that a lot of the program savings that we're working with are deemed savings through the California Public Utilities Commission program, and they have existing evaluation, monitoring, and verification cycles that they do at the back end of every program cycle. So they basically go sample a number of houses that have been served under the program and are able to basically refine the deemed savings estimates based on the experience of the previous year's cycle. So some of that is built into the program, but I think you also do some additional. Yes, what we do is every customer that we serve with a greenhouse call receives a customized client report after the visit, and that client report is going to contain information based on the survey questions that we ask them or what the types of things that we assess in their home, and then we'll then provide not only information on the deemed savings that they should expect to see from the work that was done, but also additional recommendations for things that they can do on their own to realize additional savings.
If you can introduce yourself.
Right on. I'm Julia Hatton. I'm the Director of Youth Programs at Rising Sun Energy Center.
Do we have a question down here? Right.
Yeah, I had a question, but my question maybe isn't focused on the youth, but on the energy efficiency in the multifamily. How do you incentivize landlords who perhaps are being able to pass the metered expenses on to tenants to be motivated to do it if there's not any direct financial benefit to the landlords? How do you approach that issue?
So for the direct install program, that's really easy because these services are provided free of charge. They're really high energy saving services, and it's really developed to overcome this little incentive by providing them at no cost. Generally, how you overcome that, if you figure it out, you want to let me know, because that's one of the most persistent problems in the multifamily and in the small commercial sector. What we're hoping is that the availability of financing will be something that helps to overcome that. We can talk to multifamily property owners about the value of green buildings. It's proven that there's lower unit turnover when there's a green building, that tenants have a better experience living in those properties. So there are some things that maybe speak to the interests of some multifamily property owners that you can really market to. Apart from that though, it's, I'm not gonna lie and say that it's easy to figure that out. That's a very, very challenging problem.
Further board questions? Members of the public? Okay, well, thank you on that. Why don't we take this item up at this point, although we'll continue to hear from Becky. Dawn, oh, there you are. So we're looking for approval for this proposed contract.
Yeah, the recommendation is to authorize the execution of the first agreement with Rising Sun to provide tenant education.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That matter carries. Okay, item 11 is a proposed agreement with Community Energy Services Corporation.
Hello, my name is Becky. So again, this contract is actually something that has had just a ton of thought and negotiation go into it, as I mentioned, because of the existence of the existing Marin Energy County Marin Energy Watch Partnership Program. We really had to think about how we wanted to tackle that issue in the marketplace. And so as a result, what we developed is this potential proposal with an organization that is a great organization and has been doing a lot of work in this area for quite some time. So I'm excited to tell you more about that. So So Community Energy Services Corporation, another nonprofit organization, and they've been operating in the Bay Area delivering energy programs since 1986. They're a low-income home repair program provider, meaning that they also have federal funds for low-income programs. They provide asthma abatement, weatherization assistance programs, and then they also have been doing a smart solar energy advisory program. But the program that we're most excited about is their SmartLights program. This has been operating in the field in the Bay Area since 2002. In 2004, Alameda and Contra Costa came along, and then in 2009, they started working with the Marin Energy Watch Partnership to do that work here in the Marin area. They're a member of both the East Bay Energy Watch Partnership and the Marin Energy Watch Local Government Partnership programs, which is a real advantage to us since those are the programs that we're really facing competition with in the marketplace. The SmartLights existing program has been lauded over and over again as a really great way to achieve a really hard to reach sector. The small commercial sector suffers the same split incentive program issues as the multifamily sector does. But in spite of that, and another thing is that the energy efficiency opportunity is fragmented across a bunch of small businesses. It's hard to serve those because you have high transaction costs associated with so many small individual buildings. What the small business direct install model, which is what the SmartLights program has really pioneered, does is it provides technical assistance, it provides great incentives, and it makes it as easy as possible and as affordable as possible for these small commercial entities to actually implement these buildings. They've had great success serving under that model. The existing program is really focused on lighting and refrigeration upgrades. And there's a strong commitment to customer satisfaction, to really making sure customers have a good experience and want to follow through from the energy audit to the implementation phase. And they've been able to develop long-term relationships, both with the contractors that they've been working with to deliver the program and with the customers that they've had experience with. They have a ton of great marketing collateral. The customers are more than happy to get a picture and to submit a quote about such a great experience that they had working with the program. And that's really, that's the best success you can hope for, because these things really succeed on word of mouth more than anything. One of the things that their program does is provides objective, independent lighting services. They are able to come in and deliver the technical assistance and then recommend a contractor. So there's no trust issues associated with the contractor trying to upsell you. Some customers find that they respond better to having that independent evaluation. There's free construction grade lighting assessment that's provided to all the participants, and generous upfront rebates on the project installation costs. In addition to that, they're able to negotiate pre-negotiated prices with the contractors that they work with to help keep program costs low for those program participants. And then on top of that, they provide project management and quality installation services so that we as a program administrator can feel comfortable knowing that the measures that were installed were done right and that we're going to get the savings that we're estimating as a result of that. So we're looking to partner with CESC and their great program. The real thing that we're bringing to the table as an organization here is taking what has been such a well-proven successful delivery model and trying to deepen the touch that they can provide when they're at those services. So it's a little untested, and we're really excited to see if it can succeed, because as I mentioned before, this is a sector that is underserved, has a ton of opportunity, and really, when we help our small businesses succeed, we help our communities succeed. So it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. We're looking to work with CESC for the implementation and delivery of the SmartLights program. They'll also be providing lighting evaluations and saving calculations for the multifamily program as well, where we have an opportunity to leverage their experience and expertise there. We're looking at about a total budget of $172,000. And we have estimated energy savings. These are also from our program implementation plans. We're really hoping to achieve 50% of the total target of our small commercial program under the scope of this first contract. I think I mentioned a lot of this already, but the program will be jointly implemented with the Marin County Energy Watch program, which is funded by Marin County and the Pacific Gas and Electric Company. We're, as I said, taking their existing delivery model, which focuses on lighting and refrigeration, and adding measures to what they can do. And then we're also hoping that we can co-market this, and not hoping, we're actively planning on co-marketing this along with our on-bill financing program, so that those customers who have sticker shock and aren't able to handle the first cost barrier associated with the deeper retrofit that includes HVAC and building measures will have availability of a relatively low-cost financing instrument that they can combine with So with that, I'd love to open for any questions or comments, but before I do that, I want to bring up Martin Bond. Same friend, with CESC.
Hello, my name is Martin Bond. I'm the interim executive director at Community Energy Services. And thank you, Becky and Don and the board for inviting us here today to approve the contract.
Welcome. Director Bud.
So maybe you're going to do this, but as these start to roll out, can you prepare a kind of a real dumbed down summary that would have something like, I am a blank, homeowner, small business, renter, whatever. What can this do for me? How much money can it save me? Where can I get more information? Who can I call to sign up? So, you know, something like that.
Absolutely.
You're probably going to do that anyway, but it's.
Certainly, we have slightly different marketing plans depending on the program in question. So I would be curious to know if that's something you would hope to have to distribute to potential customers or something so you can have the talking points. But we can certainly touch base on that, and we'd be happy to develop anything that would help communicate the value of these programs.
Yes.
So, like on this contract for 172,000, how is the oversight going to work? Are you the person who's going to watch the dollars? Are they going to report to you, Becky? How's that work?
Yeah, that's the general gist. There's several levels of oversight that are sort of built into this program delivery model. I'm the high-level contract manager, so I'll oversee the invoices. I meet regularly with CESC to oversee the documents that they develop and talk about program schedules and program strategy. This is sort of ongoing communication that will continue to take place. Ideally, we'll be able to set up a nice, structured set of policies and programs that allow them to operate virtually seamlessly. And then once that happens, they serve in a program management role for the programs that are taking place. So they schedule the outreach plans, they schedule the lighting evaluations with their customers, and they also oversee the construction work that's installed on these projects. So they provide the sort of quality assurance from the construction perspective, as they've been doing in their program for many years. To say that I'm the only person involved in that, in the contract management role, is not correct, because as I mentioned, this is a jointly implemented program with PG&E and Marin County Energy Watch Partnership. So while there are distinct contracts for both of our sides of the program, there are going to be, at a minimum, quarterly meetings. Currently, it's monthly and sometimes bi-weekly with both Dana at the county and the appropriate folks at Pacific Gas and Electric, and sometimes Don when we need to pull in the hard hitters, so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page and operating on the same level.
So, I understand, so maybe from a contract administration standpoint, someone's in the field and there's going to be reports made of what's happening. And so, who audits the reports to make, or does some sort of audit function to see what's going on? How does that work?
So again, that is sort of what I was getting at when I say that we set up a set of
I
policies.
know you have to say it again because I didn't catch it.
No, it's okay. It's buried in there. What part of setting up those program policies and procedures is understanding what are the calculations and assumptions that go into delivering an energy evaluation report to a customer. Those kinds of things are pretty well vetted by both the CPUC and ourselves, so that we're all aware of the kind of claims that are being made and the kinds of assumptions that go into these things. So ideally, once we have that process set up, there's minimal oversight necessary, but certainly when we do invoices and things like that, we get metrics from them to report on their activity in the field and have the right to query deeper about any of that.
And if I might add just a little bit to that, there's a subset of the funding that we receive for our energy efficiency programs that is intended to go for EM&V, which stands for Evaluation, Measurement, and Verification. So it's a part of what the CPUC requires in any energy efficiency programs, and it's built into the program. And that's what Becky's describing, that the metrics that will be used are agreed upon in advance with the CPUC on board, so that before we go into a retrofit, we have a set of standards that have to be followed. And then we have to verify that those results are achieved.
So in this case, for example, how do you measure success?
A few ways. I mean, ultimately, the measure of success is, did we achieve the energy savings that we said that we would? Did we install the right amount of measures? There's a series of performance metrics that go along with that include things like how many customers did we serve? Did we achieve HVAC installations? Did we help workforce development in any way, shape, or form? So there's a few ways that we measure success in the program. But energy savings is the paramount.
So is our agency the interface for the financing piece too, or does that go through the contractor? And are you overseeing that part of it too?
So this one, we have to defer to River City Bank to do the majority of the sort of representation of the financing. With that said, we can market the financing program. We can prepare some preliminary estimations of how the financial calculations will impact the overall project. So you have this much anticipated energy savings on a monthly basis. If you finance, this is your anticipated monthly cost, and we can prepare those kinds of calculations in the reports that we deliver to property owners, and are working through the details of that in the next month or so. But ultimately, it's the bank's responsibility to evaluate the creditworthiness of the applicants and to approve the loan. So
Right,
they'll be
right.
working with
But we kind of introduce the two parties.
Yeah, we can serve as an interface, and that's the ideal, actually, is that most of the financing programs that have been lending successfully in that energy efficiency space have really relied on the contractors who are in the field dealing with the projects to make the customer aware of the opportunity.
And most of these small businesses finance these improvements?
Yet to be seen. The one real energy efficiency lending program that has a lot of traction for small commercial in the state is the PG&E on-bill financing program. They're offering that program at 0% interest. They did that intentionally to avoid being seen as a financial institution, being regulated by the set of laws that apply to financial institutions. So that program has been very successful, but whenever you have 0%, it's hard to extrapolate that success to 5.5% interest. When they did the evaluation, measurement, and verification of the on-bill financing program, they did a sensitivity analysis to estimate how many customers would have fallen off if the interest rate had increased. And at about 5.5%, I don't have the numbers exactly, but it definitely significantly limits the amount of people who are like jumping at the gate to participate in the program. So I would anticipate, we projected to the Public Utilities Commission about a 10% increase in the workflow than would otherwise exist without the financing program. But at this point, that's largely conjecture, and the CPC realizes that because there are very few test cases in the market. We are the test case, actually.
Yes.
If we have somebody like a large apartment owner or business who is really interested in this right now, who should we tell them to contact? You?
Yeah, we actually have set up an email, ee@marinenergy.com, and that's probably, and I can send that to you also. It's ee, as in energy efficiency, @marinenergy.com.
Okay.
And that shoots out an email to both myself and Raphael, and we're handling some of the preliminary customer interface. So that would be a great way to get started. Eventually, we're working to set up the web portal. I'm actually really excited about this. We just had this conversation this morning. We currently have sort of a pre-screening questionnaire to get the idea about whether or not the property would be a good fit for us based on a series of characteristics. And we score that, and so that we have sort of an objective scoring criteria system for evaluating the different projects that come in the door. What we're doing is setting up a web form so folks can enter that on the Planet Ecosystems-based web tool. And after that point, they'll have the opportunity to start an account, and all the information that they've entered will be saved and free entry so they don't have to repeat that process. So probably April or May, we can show a demonstration of what I'm talking about, and at that point, we'll have much more sophisticated sort of customer entry. But at this point, sending them to Raphael and myself is a good start.
Any further questions or comments, members of the public? Okay, great. Thanks, Becky. I think what you're detecting from the board is enthusiasm. We're excited about these programs. Again, impressive how quickly you've gotten put these together, a lot of moving pieces. I think what we would like going forward is regular updates, how it's working out, some measurements, what's going right, what's going wrong, hopefully nothing, but if there is. So just kind of keep that in mind as well going forward. So with that, do I have a motion on the Community Energy Services Corporation proposed contract?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that matter carries. Great, thank you very much. Item 12, communications update.
All right, thank you so much. We'll have some really exciting announcements to tell you all about today, some of which are not included in your board packet. The first thing I wanted to talk about is our commercial customers and fostering relationships with them. With the addition of new staff on our team, we started to focus on building stronger relationships with our customers. And in December, we went and had some meetings with the Good Earth grocery store in Fairfax. Many of you are probably familiar with that grocery store. They have been a Deep Green customer since the beginning of MCE, and we share similar values with the Good Earth. And in January, we launched a campaign with the Good Earth to promote our Deep Green program. They sponsored the campaign very generously, and it was basically a contest to encourage Deep Green awareness and Deep Green enrollment. So there were two ways to enter the contest. You could enter the contest by signing up for Deep Green and mentioning the Good Earth, or submitting a short essay or a paragraph of about 250 words about why renewable energy matters to you. The campaign ran for 2 months. In January and February, the Good Earth did all kinds of advertising for it. I'm actually going to pass around one of their newsletters. They did a newsletter, print and email newsletter as well. We have 2 full pages dedicated to MCE in their newsletter. One is just about why they chose MCE and their decision to choose Deep Green and renewable energy. And the other one is more general information about MCE and inviting people to learn more about it and sign up for Deep Green. So the idea behind the contest was once you entered at the end of the contest, we randomly drew 10 names, and the Good Earth donated a $100 gift card to each of those winners of the contest. So it was really successful. In addition to the print and the email blast, we also had flyers that they were distributing at stores. We were distributing them at events. They also had posters, and we were advertising it on social media. And we saw a 350% increase in our Deep Green signups in January and February. So it was a really exciting campaign. We're super fortunate to have the Good Earth supporting us like that. And we're really, really happy that that campaign was so successful. So I just wanted to let you know about that. The other really exciting thing to let you know about is that yesterday we launched a new website. So we don't have wireless here, but we do have a couple of the pages up on the website, and I invite you guys all to take a look at it. We have updated it for a few reasons. One is to prioritize and reorganize based on the findings that we had from the APCO research. We're prioritizing information like rates, power sources, billing, choices, and a general overall rebranding. If you scroll to the top, you'll see this newer revised logo up on the left-hand side, and we're doing that in the spirit of inclusivity, to shift away some of our focus to be so much in Marin, because we're also now going to be serving Richmond customers, and we are serving Richmond customers because we're having them sign up for Deep Green already. So through all of our future marketing materials, you'll see the shift away from Marin Clean Energy and really the focus on MCE instead. The new website is compatible with all different devices, so it works on PCs, tablets, and mobile devices. And then there's just a few different pages I wanted to show. Do you want to go through a couple of them? If you scroll up to the top, there's a page about our power sources, so you can find, these are just maybe a little bit new information to show you, things like our integrated resources plan. If you scroll down, you can see our contracted power supply map. You can see our power suppliers on the left-hand side with links to their websites. If you scroll down even more, you can see our power sources chart. And then if you go to the next tab, this is just an example of one of the providers that we have a contract with. This is Recurrent Energy, so that people can really go to our website and find out more about our power sources, where it's located physically, what the percentages are, and who we're buying it from. And then if you scroll over one more, Oh, I'm sorry, just the next tab. I just thought I'd also highlight that one, if you go to the top. The local power sources, so this page is going to be dedicated to highlighting things like our Sanderfell feed-in tariff project, the project at the airport. This is actually a gentleman who was helping to install the solar panels. And if you scroll down, we have this really neat live power output monitor. There's a link to it right here, and I wasn't able to pull it up in this with this internet. But if you go to it, you can see the live power output from the Sanderfell Solar Airport. So you can see how much power it's producing in real time. You can see it daily, weekly, monthly. It shows greenhouse gas emissions and reductions, of course, and converts that into easier things to understand, like trees and cars off the road. So I'm really excited about the website, and I hope you go through it and continue to share it with your constituents who want to learn more about the program.
Director Athens.
Is the URL MCE?
The URL is going to be shifting. So right now, we have several URLs that work, and we'll point to this website, marincleanenergy.com, marinenergy.com, and then all the different endings. In about a week, we're going to be shifting it to be mcecleanenergy.com, as well as our email. So, marinenergyauthority.org or .com, marinenergy.com, but also MCE Clean Energy, so that as we start, as we continue communicating in Richmond, we're shifting away from the focus of Marin. And so moving on towards Richmond, this is actually in your packet, but I wanted to talk a little bit about where we're at in Richmond. Included in your packet was a community outreach plan, and it really focuses and highlights on community events and meetings and how we're getting involved in Richmond, as well as advertising and opt-out notices. And I know you all met Alex at our last meeting, and I wanted to give Alex a chance to talk about some of the events in a little bit more detail. There was also a list of the events included in your packet, and just since last week, we've added 6 additional events to that as well. So we'll continue to update that, and we'll bring them to the board meetings.
So I'd say at this point, the Richmond outreach has become the Richmond outstretch. This summer, it's going to hopefully become a full-fledged embrace. The main groups that we've been presenting to can be roughly broken down into neighborhood councils, business organizations and business events, community-based organizations and nonprofits. The neighborhood councils, for those who don't know, Richmond has a really cool, cohesive neighborhood council structure where there's about 25 to 35 neighborhoods, and each one of them has their own mini council. About half of them are active, which means that they're holding meetings and events. We have scheduled 9 presentations to the neighborhood councils, so just about half of the active councils, and we've delivered a third of those already. Those have been really successful and well attended and a lot of fun, actually. In the plan, we'll list the dates of all of those, should any of you want to come to one of those. The next one that's up is the North and the East. That's going to be 27th of this month, and that is the largest neighborhood council with the largest population. So that should be a good one. As far as business organizations and events goes, we're going to be presenting to the Council of Industries next month in Quaint Richmond. Ben Choi, our other account manager, participated in the Richmond Chamber of Commerce Breakfast for Businesses, where Chairman Connolly and I went at the beginning of the year, and he had a good report from that, because that was where the newly appointed Councilmember Myrick, was introducing himself to the business community. And we also have a meeting set up with him coming up next week. And as far as community-based organizations go, when we presented to the Sons in Retirement in El Sobrante, one of the participants in the room, in the audience, came up to us, and he was a representative from the Rotary Club of El Sobrante. And he was so excited by what he had heard that he invited us to come speak at the Rotary. So that's now on the docket as well. And then as far as community events go, last week there was a fruit tree giveaway that was organized by the city manager's office. in Richmond, and they had, I think it was between 800 and 1,000 fruit trees that they were handing out to community members, and it was a sight. And we're going to be, we have a bunch of photos of it that I still have to send to Jamie, but basically there was a line of people waiting hours in the sun to get handed all types of fruit trees, to get seeds, and it was a real fun thing. We got rid of a lot of brochures and business cards. Elena was with us as well, our other community affairs rep, who's a native Spanish speaker. So there was a lot of Spanish being spoken, and it was really a boon for us, MCE, to be able to be associated with something like that. And a lot of credit goes to the city manager's office and Bill Lindsay over there at the city, because they put together a really cool, well-attended event. And they've got one more coming up this season, which we'll be at as well. On the horizon right now, we have houses of worship in schools. Right now we have we're organizing a community leader advisory group, which is also discussed in the plan. And the chairperson of the group is a young man by the name of Damian King. And he actually was a youth pastor growing up. And so he has offered to help get us an invitation to present to a couple of pastors there, so that hopefully they will then offer us an invitation to present to their congregations. So that's on the horizon. And then also through our connection with the Mindful Life Project and Meestrom Elementary School, where we have adopted for the Mindful Life Project through our sponsorship. We're hoping to be able to tap into the students in the schools, and we'll be talking to the superintendent hopefully next week. Also, the Community Leader Advisory Group, in addition to providing a sounding board and feedback for our Richmond outstretch, it's also going to be helping us convene at least 2 town hall meetings in Richmond. One is going to be this spring, and we're trying to coordinate it with the first opt-out notices that will be going out, and then the second one will be in the summer. And part of what the advisory group will be doing is using their networks to make sure that it's well promoted, well attended, and that the people of Richmond know that they have new electricity options coming. And if there are any questions about Richmond specifically, I'd be happy to answer them.
Director Bud.
I just want to say that Alex has done a terrific job in Richmond. I've seen several of his presentations. I think that for the most part, they've been well received. You know, like anywhere, there are a few harassers in every crowd, and you know, he just smiles and sticks to the facts and does a really great job. So they've really done well for this organization, and I'm sure they'll keep it up.
Great.
I have a few more things to add.
Well, thank you, Alex.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
As far as Richmond outreach, I wanted to talk about opt-out notices. That's something that we're planning right now. The first 2 opt-out notices are going to be mailed out in April. We'll be bringing those draft opt-out notices to the executive committee this month. Alex also referenced the community leader advisory group. They'll be helping to review those as well, to get eyes from people who don't live and breathe MCE. So I think that'll be really helpful, and we're excited to develop those. Something that will be different about the opt-out notices in Richmond is that they're going to be bilingual, so they'll be in Spanish and English when they're mailed out. We'll be mailing the 3rd in May, and then of course we'll be mailing 2 more notices after enrollment if customers don't opt out, and those would be mailed in July and August. The other thing that we're working on right now is developing our content for an advertising campaign in Richmond. We'll be advertising from April through July, and we have advertising space in 2 print periodicals in Richmond. The Richmond Pulse, which is a bilingual print newspaper in Spanish and English, and the Richmond Post, which is also a print newspaper and is actually the largest African-American newspaper in circulation in the Bay Area. Actually, I think all of in the United States. Go ahead and even say that. So it's pretty exciting to be advertising in those. We also have online ads in 3 different venues. Redeemed World Magazine, which is a Richmond-based news outlet. The Richmond Confidential, And then we're doing online ads through a group called Ad Taxi, where they basically pinpoint the ads to people in Richmond, so it's based off of your zip code. So they use 4 million different websites, and they can determine where you're at and where you are on the internet, and pinpoint our advertisements directly towards them. The ads are going to be focusing on the who, what, and why about MCE, so that people can understand what we are, and letting them know that they have this choice to make in July, so that they're prepared for that enrollment. That was the last thing I wanted to note about Richmond, and then just to also mention the residential brochures that were in your packet, and they're also at your, I hope they're with all of you right now. If you would like extra copies of them, we would love to give them to you to distribute to your city halls or to your constituents. We have plenty of copies. Keep in mind that there is a cost comparison insert in the back, so you wouldn't want to ask for too many, because as rates change, we will update that, MCE or PG&E rate changes. You'll notice that the cost comparison is two-sided, and it has information about our proposed rates for April as well as our current rates. The residential brochure has also been translated into Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese as well. So there are many languages to have the brochure, and we'll be having a commercial brochure coming out shortly as well. So this one is focused for residential customers. And I believe that is all, so we're happy to answer any other questions.
Questions for Jamie? Members of the public? Director Ripken.
Just quickly, I mean, it sounds so smashing, like things are going so well in Richmond. I mean, do you anticipate, have you seen any problems yet that it's caused you to change what you're doing, or for the most part, it's a really receptive response to MCE's message?
Yeah, don't mean to make it sound like it's easy. I think it's going well. It's definitely a challenge. Usually, one of the things I've heard a lot from people leaving some of the neighborhood council meetings was, when I got here, I didn't know much about this, but I didn't like it. And now I'll consider it, and now I'm thinking about it. And a lot of people have also commented that they like that people are discussing where the electricity comes from. I mean, I think not just in Richmond, but in communities throughout the country, people are pretty detached from where their energy is coming from, where their water is going, where their garbage is going. And so I think people are really, especially some of the younger folks, are really excited about what's happening. I'd say right now there's a lot of curiosity and interest, and people are embracing it with an open mind. But we still have a lot of persuading to do and convincing to do, and we have to build a lot of trust and faith.
Yeah, I was going to ask Director Butt the same thing, following up on your earlier thoughts. What is your sense on the ground right now?
You know, my sense is that, you know, if I don't see a groundswell, I'm optimistic. And I haven't seen it. I think that most people, it's kind of off their radar, and, you know, they've just got other more important things to think about. But
So
I mean,
you know it if there were significant opposition?
Yeah, we would know it. And I think that, you know, without some entity like PG&E that did that here in Marin, you know, I don't know where that would come from. And so anyway, I'm optimistic. So far, so good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Members of the public on the communications update? Okay, well, thanks again, Jamie and Alex. One more thought?
Yeah, man.
Real quick.
To the question, to Director Ripken's question, I think that also our sponsorships have been really valuable in being able to align with an organization like Urban Till, the Mindful Life Project, has given us a fair amount of legitimacy with people. Those are well respected and well recognized in the community. So that's you know, thanks to you guys and to you know, to Don for letting us pursue those sponsorships. They've helped a lot.
Great, thank you. Item 13, consideration of MEA budget for fiscal year 2014.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, board.
directors, and engaged public still at this time. My name's Emily, I'm Internal Operations Coordinator, and just presented a couple of times here. I get the honor to introduce our accountant team, the Mahers. And I'll do that in just a second, but I just wanted to remind you of their commitment. I could go on and on about my own short time here and how much they do to help us with the organization, but just to remind you of the size of our agenda. And last meeting, you know how long that meeting was and that they endured the whole way through, and the fact that they're willing to just come back and represent the budget item again. After having seen the consent calendar item and being on page 3, Mike said, don't try to sweet talk me, and I know you're lying through your teeth. So, I mean, need they say more? And I'm sort of joking, but it's literally, I mean, it's just one physical example of their commitment. And so, last board meeting, your board approved to support the proposed budget, which you did. We reminded that decision at the last executive committee meeting, and said we would revisit that again at this board meeting and move to approve the proposed budget to make it official. So I'll turn it over to Mike and John Maher to go through the details, and I have a copy of it for you.
Okay. Yeah, so you'll see the proposed budget in your packet. Not much has changed since last month. We discussed the budget over in a little more detail. There was a slight adjustment. We had a $200,000 decrease in the data manager fee. And we moved that excess into staffing and also to other services, particularly to provide funds for MEA to receive a credit rating to issue bonds eventually. Other than that, nothing has changed from last month.
Okay, that sounds fairly straightforward. Does anyone have any questions? All right.
I have one, of course. So, I'm shocked to hear a vendor says they need $200,000 less, which I guess is good. Why do we need to spend the $200,000?
Yeah, that's a great question. In our last board meeting, we approved a data manager services contract with Mobile Energy Solutions, and in the final stages of negotiation, we were able to bring the cost down at the end there. It looked like that was likely before the board meeting, but we hadn't had an opportunity to line that up into the budget because both of those items were taken up concurrently at the board meeting. We initially considered should that 200 simply be going to the bottom line or going to offset rates, or for other purposes. We looked at where the biggest needs were, and we had we determined that among the options for that dollar savings, the highest priority need would be the two things that Mike just mentioned, the staffing costs, because we have brought in some additional staff recently to help with the Richmond enrollment. And also, and so there was a slight increase there that we were facing. And then the other item, which I wanted to actually say a little bit more about, is something that hadn't been worked into the budget previously, but probably should have, and it relates to what I spoke about earlier, which is MEA's interest in developing its own project in Marin County. It's something that we've been looking to do for many years, but waiting until we've been at full rollout and are in a position to actually seek a credit rating in the market. That's something that we have talked about with various board members, that the timing on that might be very good to take on towards the end of this year or sometime during this fiscal year. But we hadn't specifically allocated resources to cover that expense. There would be a need to bring on a little bit of legal expertise and some finance expertise as well to assist with going through the credit rating process. And part of what we'll be doing as we get our own locally owned project kind of off the ground and into the development process is likely going to be doing a bond issuance. And we've been advised that it's a good idea to do the credit rating process hand in hand with a bond issuance. And a bond issuance is something that provides us as a government agency a cost advantage in the market. And I won't get too much in the weeds there, but it's something that the agency's been interested in doing, and this year is really the first time that we've had the opportunity to do that. And so in talking through the various needs for that surplus, it was determined that we should be allocating a little bit to cover those legal and financial costs that would be incurred as part of that effort.
And obviously those ideas will be discussed at the TechCom and XCOM. But very interesting to hear that we're moving in that direction. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on this item?
Chair, does the budget include the rate increase?
Yes, yes, it's calculated in the rate increase.
Members of the public? Okay. So this item requires action, basically for approval of the fiscal year 14 budget. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved, carries.
Can I just add one thing, I appreciate staff putting the details on the back of the budget grants, what some of the line items were, and so they were broken down further, and I appreciate that you did that.
Yeah, that's helpful. Okay, item 14 is a proposed resolution authorizing executive officer to enter into and execute contracts. This item has been vetted fairly extensively through the XCOM, but Donna, why don't you go ahead and introduce it?
I'm happy to introduce
All
it.
right, there you go.
So this makes a couple of revisions to an already existing resolution. This would replace the existing resolution that relates to the authority of the executive officer to enter into contracts. Part of this is to have a small increase to that authority from $20,000 to $25,000. But I think that probably the most important change is currently Dawn's authority relates to specific scopes of work. And so you can enter into up to $20,000 on a specific scope of work. You can add on with the same vendor to the various scopes of work. And we didn't find that to be as clear as it could be. And so what we would like to do is to limit that authority to on a per contractor basis rather than a per scope of work basis. But then the executive officer's authority would be renewed each year. So that's the modification. It's been discussed extensively at XCOM. So I'm happy to field any questions you all may have.
Yeah, I think the point is that it kind of tightens it up.
Yeah.
So,
It clarifies the policy.
any questions? Okay, it doesn't look like any questions or comments. Do I have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That matter carries. Item 15, regulatory update.
Great. I have a long update for you. No, just kidding. We're not going to hear that, I promise, even though I know you all would love it. So feel free to ask all of your burning regulatory questions that you might have. I have three things to report back on. One relates to a very significant summit that happened just about a week ago. That was the Resource Adequacy Summit, and it brought together the commissioners from the California Public Utilities Commission, the California ISO, and the California Energy Commission to really broadly discuss the trajectory of resource adequacy in the state. And it really was a summary of where are we now and where are we going. Right now, we have a bit of a glut of capacity in the market, but the capacity market is changing really quickly, especially as more renewables, especially solar, come online. It changes the needs of the system, so flexible capacity, potentially long-term resource adequacy. And so it was a broad-based policy discussion among these agencies and stakeholders in the energy community. And it was a way of discussing what each of these agencies expects to see going forward. So there's potential for having a centralized capacity market. What would that look like? What does that mean? There's potential for a need for additional flexible capacity. And can that need be filled through energy efficiency or demand response, storage, or other means other than quick ramping gas-fired power plants? So all of those were discussed, and I think that we're going to be seeing in the next year, we're going to be seeing a lot of movement on this. And so we're tracking this very closely. John DeLessie has been working closely on this, as has Andy Brown of Ellison Schneider and Harris. He's been our external counsel working on this, and I've been very involved as well. So we're looking forward to see what direction that's heading in. On a related note, there was a decision that came out that related to the long-term procurement plan. These are the procurement plans for the investor-owned utilities. The recent decision related to the LA Basin, but we have been involved because there's an opportunity to discuss policies around what's a CAM opt-out, so cost allocation mechanism opt-out. So how do we ensure that, for our own long-term procurement, that is being recognized by the commission, and at the same time, procurement isn't happening on behalf of our customers by PG&E. And so there was a decision that came down that really relates to the LA Basin, but we're going to be seeking some clarification on when they're going to be determining CAM opt-out for CCAs and sort of in the broader policy context. So how are we viewed at the commission for our long-term procurement? And then the last item that I wanted to bring up is the PG&E Smart Grid pilot deployment proposed decision is out, and this was actually a victory for us, or hopefully will be a victory in a couple of weeks' time. The decision determined that PG&E was not allowed to use distribution funds to pay for generation-related forecasting activities. And so while that seems intuitive and crystal clear, some of these proposals have gone through in the past that are, in a way, a cross-subsidy from distribution ratepayers. So all of our customers are distribution ratepayers, and PG&E's bundled generation ratepayers. So hopefully that victory will be firmed up at the next commission meeting. So I'll keep you posted on that. So that is my brief report.
So what's the next step on the CAM proceeding?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing an additional filing in the long-term planning proceeding to, that will either clarify that our understanding is correct, that this decision really only relates to the Los Angeles Basin, and that if it doesn't, that it would contradict law, that what the statutes provide, in particular Senate Bill 790, which primarily relates to community choice aggregation, it requires that the commission look closely at ensuring that CCAs are able to procure for their own loads, and so to avoid this on behalf of procurement. And so I think that, to the extent that this really does relate to the LA Basin, we don't have a dog in that hunt. But if it's intended to be have broader policy implications, then we're deeply concerned.
Further questions for Beth on this item?
Yes.
Drew.
Has our agency looked at the community opt-out case at the CPUC, which is related to the implementation of the smart grid?
Yeah, so I believe you're talking about the community smart meter opt-out proposals. We have not been involved in that. We haven't taken a position on that since there hasn't been a need to. That really does relate to the meters themselves, and so since we are not in control of the meters, it really is outside of our domain. So we haven't been involved. We have been involved on smart meter data issues.
The privacy issues.
Privacy.
Yeah,
exactly.
I saw that. But I mean, if we did weigh in on community opt-out, it would give local agencies some control over metering and metering technology. So it's sort of a way for local agencies and local jurisdictions to kind of get their toe in the water on that part of the distribution. So It's just a question, because, you know, Fairfax has been the lead party in that with the county. And it's just, it would be a nice support it would be nice to get some support from this agency, or if this agency would at least take a look at it, to see if there's any benefit for this agency to weigh in.
Yeah, this is something that we actually did convene and discuss about 12 months ago or more. I would say actually probably more like 18 months ago when there were a lot of concerns being raised initially with the smart meter rollout. We held a couple of meetings in our technical committee and in our executive committee. We actually brought in PG&E to talk about the smart meters because there were concerns being expressed by members of the public. And at that time, it was determined that because this is something that had been on the distribution side, that it's not something that we were going to become directly involved in on a regulatory basis. Part of the reason is that we're involved, and as you can see in our spreadsheet, we have 21 proceedings that we're managing with a very small team of 2. The other reason is that we have the direct impact on our customers rate-wise isn't there. So it's more of a customer choice and a preference. And I think the third reason is that the concept of an opt-out was kind of proceeding on its own track and is now available. If it's something that was of interest to the board, we could certainly have additional policy discussion around it.
Just one point. The opt-out that they're offering costs the ratepayer. So it does have an impact on the ratepayer's monthly bill. Plus, there's an initiation fee of about $50. So the opt-out, it's the exact opposite of what was done when our agency went online, because it's costing people to leave the program. So it definitely does have an impact on the ability of the ratepayers to actually opt out freely. And one of the basic points that is being made in the litigation is that the fee is essentially violates some long-standing California public utility codes passed by the legislature for many, many years about not charging customers to opt out based on health conditions, health concerns, that type of thing. Anyway, I know we don't want to exactly pick a fight or pick another fight, but it's there, and I just thought I'd kind of raise the issue.
Right. I mean, I think that it also raises a political or policy issue that's outside of the scope of what we're doing here, since it is a distribution-related topic. So I would definitely need to have guidance, from the executive committee and the board that is the direction that that's how the board wants to use our resources.
Heard you. Thanks.
I mean, I would take a very sort of cautionary approach there, because as you just outlined, you're very concerned about how PG&E is using some of their distribution costs to put over onto their procurement side, right? Yes. So they're crossing the firewall that you're talking about. If you decided you want to get into the issue of smart meters, you're also crossing back over that firewall as well. So, I mean, I think you've got to recognize what you are as an agency and what you do best, and stick to that.
Yeah, and just getting back to the core of the issues that we are really that we evaluate and fight for at the commission on a daily basis are these cost allocation components, exit fees, which have a very significant and direct impact on our customers, and also jurisdictional issues. So how does how do we ensure the autonomy of our board to pursue the policies, renewable and otherwise, at the commission, and also obviously a growing need that we have relates to energy efficiency. We'd also like to take a look at how we can better serve low-income communities and on the energy efficiency front. And so I think that we're just gonna have more and more on our plate from that specific scope. But like I said, you know, it's I serve the community and the board, so.
Director Redcon.
You know, I have a couple points. One, I think this is a really important issue, but it's not on our agenda tonight, so I don't think that we should be discussing it in detail. But I would be very interested if the board was interested in giving direction to staff to actually tee this up for an agenda item at even the next meeting, or I understand this, everyone has lots of things on their plate, but I think it is an important issue, and I think it is a policy issue, and I think but the board can't really obviously make any kind of statement about it without having a presentation and staff report worked up. Maybe it starts in committees and works up to the board, but I think it's clearly an issue in this county. Now, a lot of folks are concerned about it, so for that reason alone, we should at least have a discussion about it and see how the board comes down.
Could I make a suggestion? That maybe it could be brought up through the technical subcommittee. I'm a member of the committee, and so it could kind of get worked up that way, as opposed to just sort of laying it on everybody's lap here.
You read my mind. I think it's worth a conversation. I think it would be appropriate at the TechCom level to start with. And of course, we're all mindful of Director O'Donnell's points as well. But I think that would be worthwhile, is the sense I'm getting from the board. So Don, why don't we tee this issue up and have a real robust discussion, bring in folks we think you could add to the information that would be helpful to us, and do it at the TechCom to start out with. Okay. Beth, anything else on the regulatory report? Continuing with your outreach to the PUC commissioners, which is always great, including a new commissioner.
I was disappointed in the brevity.
I can work on that for you. Director requirements.
Item 16, board member and staff matters, seeing none. We are adjourned.
Quickly done, yeah.
Ask it.